Καλημέρα.
Καλημέρα. Ζώρο.
Ζωρό.
Women have their fantasies. I'm Zora. I wish I were. Actually, I don't wish because that was getting gone.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's my soul.
On your mouth.
Okay, slowly follow me.
Ένα λεπτάκι κανένα. Περίμενε.
We will I thought everybody was
Να τους πάρουμε πάνω από την πίσω μεριά, εντάξει. See you up there.
Το κουτί του Αγίου, έλα. We're going to gather here a little bit, allow the ones who are here to leave, so come forward. Oh, they're already going beep beep. They don't listen to nothing, these people. They're taking pictures, they're posing. Come forward. Come. Make a little bit like a moon circle. And I will try and scream as much as I can. Okay, and I will tell you briefly what's going to be here. This is the Gerolemos Winery, okay? And this is where you're going to do your tasting. And this is where you promised yesterday to have a little bit of Zivania, okay? So, this is a family business winery. It was passed on from father to son to the owners of today, which is two brothers, okay? The name of the winery is called Gerolemos. It's a family name, okay? Don't bother with that, it's just a family name. The winery opened its doors to the public in 1989, okay? Their vineyards, in other words, it's sitting on 27 acres of land. They produce grapes, brackets wine, and they have two kinds of grapes, okay? The black and the white. From the black you get the red wine, and from the white you get the white wine. They also produce rosé, okay? The harvest of the grapes, they start in the morning of the months August, September, October. During these 3 months, they collect their grapes to produce their wines. Their family business, they employ for this job of cutting. And if anybody of you is unemployed and would like a job, is welcome to come. They employ 10 people, and they start in the morning until like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, cutting and cutting and cutting, okay? Once the grapes are collected from the vineyards, they put them in boxes. They bring them here with trucks, of course, and this is where they empty them. If you look behind you, now it's covered because of it's called the presser, okay? What they do, they put in that presser the boxes, they empty the boxes, in other words, in the presser, and with air, that thing has the ability excuse me a second, okay? Stelion, Έλα σου πω, Στέλιο, να σου στείλω το τσέκι. You have the fruit only, they press it, and the juice with pipes, they come into these tanks here. Okay? These tanks, it used to be like them, but because they had no thermostat, they decided to change it and put thermostat in it in order to control with temperature the production of wine. Okay? Because of the very high temperatures we have, it will affect the wine. Like that, they don't, because these things, due to the they work like fridges, okay, when the operation of making wine is in there, okay. Once the wine fermentates and it's ready, they transfer it from these tanks into the tanks inside the building, which is exactly the same, and they keep it there in order to drain. Ξέχασα τη λέξη, να το... Ναι, τώρα να σου πω τη λέξη. Να περάσει από το net για να καθαριστεί.
Take the leaves out.
About the grapes.
Yes,
That is
what's the word? I forgot the word. The English word is on.
Leaves.
Drain or
Oh,
seal.
no. To drain it. Oh, wait.
Filter.
Filter, bravo. Who is this man? Give me fun. Okay, so it goes into there, it gets filtered, so nothing goes into the wine, and from there it gets bottled and then labeled. Okay, somebody asked the question, what's the alcohol of each wine? Well, the wineries around Cyprus, they take their product to a specific place in Lesotho, or in Nicosia, or wherever they come from, these wineries, and there, specific people who are in charge of that, they taste the wine and say, this wine has so much percent volume of alcohol in it. That's why when you buy a bottle of wine, you will see the volume of the alcohol. Like Seva was telling you on the bus, Zivania has 42 and 48%, okay, which you will try today. That's like a command, you will try. Right. The winery, like every other winery, of course they go to different competitions and their product is being tasted and everything, and they give them awards. There's plenty of awards for this winery, and they have them on the walls, display for people to see. Okay? They produce also the red wine now, but the red wine, after this procedure, it doesn't get transferred there immediately. It goes into barrels, red barrels, and they leave it there between 6 and 12 months in order to mature and get the red wine that we all know. Okay? While the white wine, okay, it takes about 20 or 40 days and it's done, it's ready. I prefer the white one than the red, to be honest, but how many of you prefer the red instead of the white? We still win the white.
How many drink both?
Anyway, so there is an entrance to the winery from here, but there's a lot of steps. And again, thinking of you, I know you went to Caledonia yesterday. We will go from the back entrance where there's no steps, just a little bit of rumba, and we are in the building. When we go in the building, they will give you a glass of, an empty glass of wine, you will hold it, and with that glass you will do your tasting. Okay? For those who taste the wine and they don't like it, there is a little bucket there, you can empty it in there, because with the same glass you will taste the variety of the wines they're going to give you. When the wine tasting is done, they will give you the little shot glasses for the Zivania. Everybody will have some. They will all drink to the good health of your tour leader. Okay? I like your necklace, by the way. It's very nice.
This does not make those on her own.
Yes, good. Bravo. So, with your wine, they will give you to try white, red, medium sweet, dry. They will give you to try the Kumandaria, the famous Kumandaria, which is like the oldest wine in the world. Kumandaria, it's made from grapes again, but before taking the juice of the grape, Kumandaria, you have to display the grapes in the sun for about 14 days, so they get a little bit dry, and then they process the wine out of the Commandaria, okay? Commandaria, when you taste it, for some of you guys, it tastes like port or like sherry, okay? It's up to you how you. When I drink it, I said I don't want to drink it because I get too dizzy. It's very nice wine.
Yeah, but maybe it's not a good idea to mix wine with Chipanea.
Oh, but we want them to mix it so that they can sing in the bath and say, woo, woo. Okay, so this is the liquid that we're going to try. With the liquid, there is a bench, and on the bench, they have the pure olive oil, then they have olive oil with lemon, and olive oil with basil, which you can try it with a little bit of bread that they offer there to try the olive oil, okay? Then you have products like pomegranate jam, the carrot syrup jam, and the olive green and black pate. Everything is there displayed. Again, I will explain to you. Because we are a big group, I will ask you kindly, when you go in there and take your glasses, for those who go forward to the table, don't try what you're going to try, make a step back so other people can go around it and try it themselves, okay? Excellent so far? Yes. Let's go this way. Oh, my little no. Come this way. It's easier to go to the building instead of guiding. I will explain to you what it is. So we will keep them up in the air so that you can know how to look at it. And as I said, for those who want to try it, go around the table, get back and all that stuff. Actually buy it, put it in a bag. For those who wish to buy this beautiful Muscat or any other wine, they will put it in a carton box for you so that it's protected and therefore you can put it in your luggage and take it home. Okay?
Too bad. What have you got there? Cheese?
Okay. Is the glass empty with Muscat? Now we're going to do the second tasting.
This is a rosé Maratertico.
So the second one is rosé.
Drink up
We
quick.
call it Maratertico.
No, I've taken you,
This is the
yeah?
area that it comes from. Again, try it. Put on rice.
How do you like rosé? Right, sir?
Thank you.
What you want to taste?
Oh. I did too much in there. Because I'm sick. Sure.
Don't drink it all at once.
Very nice.
There you go. It's okay. You can try it while tasting the leading sweet or the sweet wine. Okay, you can have it. They have lots of flavors.
Anybody who doesn't have a glass? Your Zivania glass? No, one.
45% alcohol.
Ladies, you need to come forward to the shop.
Normally, because I go so very often, I don't do any shopping anymore. But the previous group, the previous Jules group, some people discovered a shop which they bought some postcards or whatever, and they said it was nice. So today we needed not a postcard, but just an ordinary card, a wedding card. Yeah, I will go and buy one as well, so I can see what's in it. I'm curious anyway. You might join me if you like. And then returning back to Pathos, we use a different way again, so we can see a little bit more of Pathos district. So what we do, it's the big round of Pathos, I should say. So where we are at the moment, we can see still that it's the tourist area. So I need to talk about these tourist areas established in Pathos, and I mentioned plural because there are two. This is the western part, the western tourist area, because there is also the eastern. And the eastern tourist area is near where we are going tomorrow for the half-day tour again. When we go to visit the mosaics, we shall see the other part of the tourist area. Going back though, many decades ago, before the Turkish invasion, surely there were no tourist areas on the southern part, what we call the free part, but especially when we talk about Pathos, Pathos was for many centuries in decline. the people here always had a problem, their own problem, you know, with economy. So I will give you a brief historical survey of Pathos so you know why Pathos was in decline. So, starting now from the 13th century BC, when the Greeks came to Cyprus and they established the different city kingdoms. So they established their kingdom in Pathos, but not anywhere near where we are now. Some maybe 15 kilometers towards the east, towards the other direction. And finally, the citizens of this kingdom started to complain after a while. They complained because they could not do the trade with neighboring countries. The trade was something that they knew how to do best. Although their kingdom was situated very close to the sea, they realized after that there was no natural harbor near there. So that's why they started to complain. And these complaints went on many centuries, up until the end of the 4th century BC, when there was a new king in that kingdom. His name was Nicocles, and he suggested to his citizens that the only thing they had to do was to move away from their kingdom, to go elsewhere. And they moved further towards the west, where there was a natural harbor. And that's where the people agreed, and they settled down in this new area. So this new area is where we are going to be tomorrow. So immediately they started the trade. They were all doing very well. Only 2.5 decades though, because things changed once again with all the city kingdoms that were abolished by Ptolemy. Ptolemy now, who was this man? Ptolemy was one of the two most important generals of Alexander the Great. And when Alexander died, these two generals started to argue, and then they started fighting over who gets what from the inheritance of Alexander. And finally, Ptolemy managed to get Egypt as well as Cyprus in his possession. So Ptolemy was the one who abolished all the kingdoms, and he appointed Pathos as the capital of Cyprus. So that's when there were no longer kings. Things started running smoothly once again. Roman rule started in Cyprus, because I'm sure you know that there were so many different rulers in Cyprus. So Roman rule started, and at first things were running smoothly, and Pathos was still the capital. The arts were flourishing, especially here in Pathos. And then things changed once again around 45 AD, when St. Paul and Barnabas came to Cyprus to preach Christianity. And that's when the problem started, the persecutions, the Romans against the Christians. These persecutions lasted up to the beginning of the 4th century AD. And things changed once again with the agreement which was signed in Milan. The historians say the Edict of Milan. So this was the agreement that gave the right to people to choose their own religion, and finally people started to live together side by side, peacefully. And just when people learned to live together, there was the earthquake, this very, very strong earthquake which devastated Pathos as well as other coastal parts of the island, and especially Pathos. And that's when Pathos fell in decline and remained in decline until the 19th century, 1878 precisely, when British rule started in Cyprus. And that's when things started to improve. Surely things could not change overnight, but at least things were turning out to be more positive. For example, the British started to improve the road network, linking Pathos with Limassol first of all. Then in the early 20th century, a high school was built, firstly in Pathos, Paphos town that is. And when I say firstly Paphos, when talking about this particular district now, it was in Paphos town. Only one high school in 1904, because education was not compulsory. So there were not all that many families that were well off to pay so that their children would get a good education. Because the right-hand side up on the hills, we will be passing later on very close again to that area. For the time being though, as shortly we will be stopping, just a few minutes, you can see the sea caves, you can have a close look to the banana plantations, the bananas in the blue plastic bags, and returning on the bus, I shall explain all about this area and their plantations. And some people, in fact the day before yesterday I did exactly the same tour, and people were seeing trees, as they said, with red blossoms now. The trees with red blossoms at this time of the year, it's pomegranates. We see a lot of different plantations in this area rather than anywhere else. Now you can see now on the left hand side As you know, we are now on this main road. Anything which is on our left-hand side, this is considered Akamas Peninsula. You can see all these man-made terraces that were up to maybe 20 years ago full of vineyards. Unfortunately, we don't see all that many anymore. And again, there's a very good reason for that. When I mentioned earlier the Cyprus negotiations and all everything going wrong and all the threats, when the Cyprus government applied to join the EU, the answer came immediately. No problem, you can join, but firstly, the first few years, couple of years before joining, you need to start making changes in Cyprus. And we started the changes with agriculture, as the majority of people used to live then in the villages. Now things have changed now because our villages suffer from depopulation. So they started with agriculture, and especially the areas with vineyards, because although we had the two districts of Limassol and Pathos, which are the only two wine growing and winemaking districts, with thousands and thousands of acres of vineyards, but we did not have many great quantities of grapes. There were only 4 wineries based in Limassol. That was it. The reason for that, it was because in Cyprus, some 20 years ago, we only had traditional varieties of vines, and they were very old, these vines, 70, 80-year-old vines. So plenty of vineyards, but no grapes. After this answer from the EU, and some agreements they made, it was decided that people, the owners of the vineyards, had a choice. The choice was, if they wanted to get rid completely of their vineyards, and they were no longer interested in starting all over again, they would get a compensation, and that would be it. If, though, they were interested to get rid completely of the vineyards they had, the varieties they had, and for almost 5 years, they wouldn't have an income. The agricultural department would pay them, would give them some financial aid, so much per acre for those 4 or 5 years that they wouldn't have an income. The agricultural department would supply them with cuttings of different foreign, that's what we call foreign varieties of grapes, imported from different European Union countries, varieties such as Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Shiraz, Malvasia, Riesling, and that's how they would start again. This is the reason we now have a lot less acres of vineyards. We have so many wineries, not just the main wineries, but also the small family-run wineries. Shortly, I'm sure you will see one already on the left-hand side of the road. This particular village called Kafikas is one of the most important wine growing and winemaking villages. So, and it is surrounded with small family-run wineries like the one. It's a small one, but still, it is well known, Basilicon. We see wines of this winery in all the supermarkets. So this is how a lot of people now are having an income. With less vineyards, they make better quality of wines, and of course even their income is much better to what it was in the past. I must say though that in Limassol district there are two regions which are called Commanderia regions. And I am sure by now you know what Commanderia is, the traditional wine of Cyprus. Two regions where the people are allowed to cultivate only the two traditional varieties of grapes needed for the making of the Commanderia. When we say allowed, this means they get financial aid, so much per acre that they cultivate. If they choose, though, to grow other varieties, they have every right to do so, but they will not get the financial aid from the government in those two regions. So we see again, like this house on the left-hand side, and you will see a lot more which are brand new, because a lot of people again decided to get rid of a vineyard or more acres to build. They become developers themselves. In Crete, where the Prince of Athens, Theseus, went to Crete to kill the Minotaur. The Minotaur lived in the labyrinth at the palace of King Minos. And many young, strong men had tried, according to mythology, to kill the Minotaur, which was impossible. The Minotaur had killed, and that became the food later on for the Minotaur, who was, it was a beast. From neck down, it was like a person, but the head, it was of a bull. So this young man, Theseus, decided to go to kill the Minotaur. He arrived in Crete and he introduced himself to King Minos. He said what the reason was that he was there. King Minos smiled because he believed that another young man would be killed by the Minotaur. He said, no problem, you can try, but I want to give a party in your honor. So as they were having their dinner at night time, King Minos' daughter Ariadne was passing from there, and she saw this young man. Immediately she fell in love with him, and she decided to help him. If he killed the Minotaur, at least he would come out from the labyrinth. So she waited until this party was over, and then she went to see him in his quarters. And she told him that she was willing to help him to come out, but the agreement was that Theseus would take her away from Crete. Theseus agreed to that. So the next morning they both met outside the labyrinth, Ariadne carrying a ball of thread, which she tied one end of the thread on the finger of Theseus. And of course, him walking in the labyrinth, he killed the Minotaur, and then he, following the thread, he came out. So he kept his promise, taking Ariadne away from her father's palace. Mythology says that as they got on the boat, they had to start heading north, Piraeus. But because of very bad weather conditions, they were going round and round in circles in the sea, months and months. That's the mythology, we said, because there are many questions with that, but that's how it goes. In the meantime, Ariadne and Theseus had a relationship, and that's when Ariadne became pregnant. And mythology has it that finally they reached the coast of Pathos, and that's where Ariadne gave birth to a baby boy, which they named Akamas. And mythology has it that Ariadne died shortly after she gave birth. So this is the reason why this whole peninsula is known as Akamas. Akamas has a most beautiful landscape, and when the tourists started to come to Cyprus, they started coming up to Akamas, different groups of people with different interests. For example, in the winter time, people who like to walk in the nature trails, people who like to see these wild flowers that grow on the Akamas Peninsula, and a lot of them indigenous. Bird watching, they can do in the winter time here, the migrating birds, because we don't have all that many in Cyprus. Looking on the right hand side, and although we can see some of the highest peaks of the Troodos mountain range. We are on the mountain range, but at a much lower altitude here. And down below, near the coast, the valley, again about mythology, Aphrodite or Aphrodite in Greek, from the Greek word aphros, which means foe, born from the foe of the sea. So what we know from mythology is that the earth was married to Uranus, the sky. They had many children, and most of the children were boys. Uranus was afraid in case the boys were going to take away from him the glory and the power, so he started to kill them. The mother, took aside one of the boys. His name was Kronos. She told him that if he wanted to survive, all he had to do was to kill his father. So one night, as Uranus was sleeping, Kronos took his sword and castrated his father. Now, the blood and the sperms that fell into the sea had as a result the pregnancy of Thalassa. Thalassa is the Greek word for the sea. Mythology has it that Thalassa was a young woman, and she became pregnant, and 9 months later Aphrodite was born on the southwestern coast of this island. And Aphrodite, although from the very beginning she had the permission to go up to the Greek pantheon to live with the rest of the gods and goddesses, but she decided to live for a while on the island of Cyprus where she was born. And mythology has it that she had many love affairs with many mortal and divine men. So the last affair she had on this island was with a handsome young mortal man whose name was Adonis. Adonis was very much in love with Aphrodite. Aphrodite was very much in love with Adonis. They were always together and very happy. And they were going on long walks, different places, and one of these places is where we are now going, to the baths, where they used to bathe. Mythology has it that one very good friend of Aphrodite's, Persephone, decided to come to visit. And the two friends were very happy to see each other, and again they were going on long walks. But finally Persephone met Adonis, and she also fell in love with him. And that's when the argument started between the two very good friends. And then they both decided to go to Greece on Mount Olympus and talk to Father Zeus, who was very wise. He was going to solve the problem. Zeus immediately said that Adonis was to spend 4 months of the year with Persephone to keep her happy. He was to spend 4 months again of the year with Aphrodite to keep her happy as well, and the rest of the 4 months of the year he was free to decide what he wanted to do. Since he was very much in love with Aphrodite, he decided to spend his 4 months with her. So at the end it was 4 months of the year with Persephone and 8 months with Aphrodite. This decision of Father Zeus made Persephone furious, and she decided to kill Adonis. So one morning, Persephone found out that Adonis was going to go into the woods hunting. She waited until he left, and then she sent after him a wild boar that killed Adonis in the forest. Hours later, Adonis had not returned. Aphrodite was really very worried. She decided to go in search of him. And then she saw him dead on the ground. She started to cry. She started to run in the woods. Her sandals came off and her feet started to bleed. And always according to mythology, all white flowers immediately turned red from the blood of Adonis and Aphrodite. This was the end of such great love and the end of the story as well. Enjoy your coffee if you like, or something else, whatever. Fruit you can buy on the left hand side, or different goods that you can taste before you buy, or an ice cream, it's up to you. Quarter past 10 at the moment. Quarter past 11. Quarter past 11. We leave from here. Looking on the left, and you see where the people are entering now. That's where we go, and we will enter. And then, as I said, it's a little bit steep, as you can see. Then it gets flat. Then there's a few steps going down to where the grotto is. And it's up to you after that, whether you return back same way as we go, or if you like to walk a little bit around. So, quarter past 11, we leave from here. Thank you.
Just to let you know that if any of you are not interested to go into the coffee shop, and I know that people need to use facilities and all that, before you go to the coffee shop, on the left there's a small white building with public toilets, and they're free of charge. So just after the coach on the left, it's public toilets.
It is really beautiful. You know, it's amazing, like seats. It's the we've been changing the why are they gates?
Not doing very well, and people are no longer interested, to be honest with you. They prefer to do something else for a living, especially the younger generation.
I saw it just now.
It's a lizard
Yeah,
on the
sorry,
rock.
I didn't mention it. I saw it sat there. Yeah, his son himself. Just sitting there. Yeah, he was enjoying himself.
Ah, it's a gecko. It's a gecko. They're harmless. What is it? A gecko. Like a small iguana.
Etwas unorganisatorisch jetzt. Wir wandern im Grunde genommen von hier jetzt los. Und wie ich schon vorhin sagte, es geht den Berg hoch bis zum Gipfel. Um den Gipfel auf die andere Seite, die Meeresseite, kommen wir wieder runter. Es ist ein Rundweg. Wer aber nach einer Stunde noch vor dem Gipfel nicht mehr wandern möchte und sagt, ich kehre jetzt um, kann es tun, nachdem er uns Bescheid gesagt hat. Und bei Sinonas, der
I mean, even if there is a small thing, they keep falling because, okay, we say we have a problem with water, but when there is plenty of water again, it's no good. So this is the reason why we can never have fruit.
It looks like maple. It looks like the same leaves as the And each idea what you could plant. Eucalyptus.
Eucalyptus. Are the eucalyptus trees? Well, not planted here. I mean, no one planted them. It's just the seeds from the leaves. The eucalyptus trees were brought in the 19th century by the British. Now, to explain now, we came these steps on the right hand side. If so, some of you would like to walk up those steps, you go up to a certain point, and then you will see the view, and you can come around to Nelson Road, which leads into the car park. So it's just a big circle that we do. You choose walking that you would like to do, but please be very careful. Why? For some that was 365, but that was not back in 1950. It wasn't really very strong when it hit Pathos. It was the same as if you didn't eat, you wouldn't live.
Marie, Marie, was yesterday.
This is your triple time. Run it.
We've seen the eels where they should never be.
Is that where we're going? It's either Polis or Polis Chrysopous, the town of the jewelers. To give you now an idea, in the ancient times, when there were still kingdoms, near where Polis is now, there was a city kingdom called Marion. And Marion kingdom was one of the many kingdoms that went against Ptolemy, when the Ptolemy and Antigonus started to argue over who gets what from the inheritance of Alexander. Marion was one kingdom that went against Ptolemy. So finally, when Ptolemy managed to have in his possession Egypt as well as Cyprus, he decided to punish those kingdoms that went against him. So he completely destroyed the town where the people used to live. And then near there, he rebuilt a new town, which he named Arsinoi. Arsinoi, according to historians, was either the wife or the sister of Ptolemy. And this town was in use up until the 7th century AD, when the people abandoned this Arsinoi. 7th century AD, Cyprus was part of the Byzantine Empire. The official religion was Christianity. And 647 precisely, the Arabs started the attacks against the coastal parts of the island. So very often people had to run for their lives. And that's when the people here in Arsinoi decided to run away, to go to other places to settle down. And then, not very long ago, a couple of centuries ago, when two people used to get married, they had to have a place to stay. So choosing somewhere, a small piece of land to live and to cultivate land around their little house. So that is how gradually a small town was then established. At first, because it was a village, then expanding, growing more and more, it became like a town. So people started calling it, instead of giving it a proper name, they were saying town, polis. And that's how it became known by that name, polis. But later on, from late 19th century and early 20th century, when there were still lots and lots of Greek people living at the western coast of Turkey. That was before 1922, when the problem started, and a lot of those Greeks became refugees. But so before that, the Greek people were very well educated. They were well off. A lot of them were in the trade, and plenty of jewelers, as well as selling other goods, but mainly jewelry. They used to come by boat to this part of the island. And the people, even those who lived up on those hills, let's wait and see the hills first of all, on the left-hand side, all those hills, there were small villages. When they were looking out in the sea and they were seeing the boats, the cargo ships, they knew that there were Greek people, merchants, to come to sell the different goods. So they were all saying, let's go to the town of the jewelers. That's what it was. And this is the reason why this place is known in Greek as Polis Chrysopous. Even nowadays there are still, for the size of the town, because it's small, but for the size of the town there are many jewelry shops. Polis is, it's used mostly during the summer months as a resort. There's plenty of small hotel apartments, as well as a couple of nice hotels, or even people who like to just rent a villa for a couple of weeks. So it's only seasonal. In the winter time, the people are occupied with agriculture. When it's high season from the 1st of April, then they are in tourism. They try at least because they.
So I've just put
Yes,
it.
yes.
It's okay, I've put some in.
Anyway, I was talking earlier about the crafts, and this is the place here. So even if you're not interested in buying, there's a nice wine, but it's I think a little bit different to what I had always in mind about how Dionysus looks like. This is it looks very different, much younger, but still, it's nice. It looks nice here. Now, this is the church that we are. Oh, no, look how you read the bell. Both outside. Oh, yes.